Well, hello there. Welcome back to another episode of the Productpreneur Success Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Catherine Langman. And today on the show, I'm really excited to bring you another inspiring story about a productpreneur's journey in her business. And have you ever heard that old saying that necessity is the mother of all invention? This was definitely the case for my guest today, Michelle from PaperSaver. And I reckon it's probably a similar genesis story for many of you as well, as it was for me in my first business. That whole scenario, struggling with a specific problem, not finding a solution to it already available on the market, and then taking on the challenge of making something new that would do the job. And of course, if that has been your journey yourself, you probably experienced a whole bunch of common challenging experiences that I think most of us go through. A few examples being finding good quality manufacturers, trying to figure out your business model so that you can actually make money. And of course, how do you get your brand in front of people so that you can build some sort of awareness and hopefully some consumer demand for your stuff. Michelle actually also had the additional challenge that comes from the fact that her product is completely new and different. Like they basically created a whole new category in the market, which on the one hand, of course, is an advantage. We all need to find ways that we can differentiate our brand from our competitors and to highlight our unique selling point. Otherwise, why on earth would customers choose to buy your product over a competitor's? But on the other hand, when you have a totally new product, people don't immediately understand what it is or how it works. So there is an education hurdle to get past before anyone is likely to buy. So these are all some of the things that we're unpacking in our conversation today, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So without further ado, let's welcome Michelle onto the show and hear her share her story about the journey of PaperSaver. So welcome to the show, Michelle. It's so cool to have you here.
Hi, Catherine.
So we're going to have a bit of a chat about your brand, PaperSaver. But before we dive into that, I really want to just invite you to introduce yourself, maybe tell everyone a little bit about your background, and then we'll dive into your business journey.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Michelle. I'm from the PaperSaver. Thank you for having me again. We designed and created the PaperSaver reusable notebook, which is a solution for turning all your used scrap paper into pages of our notebook to give the paper a longer life, reduce waste, and reuse better to live more sustainably. And we've since also extended our range to include other reusable stationery items such as organizers, pens, and pen loops.
Yeah, so practical and such an ingenious invention. And I want to ask you just quickly before we go into where the ideas and the sparks came from, tell us what you were doing before you started this business.
I actually have a background in marketing, so I have spent most of my career marketing products, the FMCG products. So we sold to like the big chains. So consumer marketing focused more for them. So more in foods, personal products, beauty products.
Stuff to get in like supermarkets and pharmacies and things like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit of a change and a pivot to what you're doing now. And
definitely.
Yeah, and tell us about what sparked the product idea, because it was you and your husband, I think, right?
Yeah, so it was my husband, John. He's the brains behind a PaperSaver, actually, because working as an architect, he was always printing draft designs to take into meetings, and then they get marked up, and these sheets would pretty much become obsolete straight away after those meetings.
Paper, right?
Yeah, so he had this pile when he felt so guilty about throwing them away because they'd barely been used, even if they were going to recycling. And he wanted to do something about it. So he created like a handmade notebook cover with an insert inside where he could just slide it in, slide in his design sheets, fold it in half to write on the back blank side.
Yes.
And every meeting he took this PaperSaver, he already called it that back then. He would always get like a comment from someone about it. So that kind of led him to the idea to, could it be something we could sell or make it commercially available?
Yeah. And how long ago was that?
Oh, gosh. That's a very good question. We actually talked about it for many years.
Yeah, right.
And it wasn't until I went on maternity leave with my first child
Yes.
and had the thought of not really wanting to go back to my job that
Yeah.
we did something about it. It was like, hey, there's this opportunity. And if we just waste a few, $1,000 and have the stock sitting in the garage for the rest of our lives, at least we know we tried. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that, why did it take a kid to push us to do it? They're the, things, hindsight, hindsight's
Totally.
always a
But
wonderful
it's so
thing.
common, like it was my journey as well. And so many people that are listening to this in our audience is a very similar journey. You have this, I don't know whether it's just you feel like you have a little bit of time outside your normal life once you have kids and you're on
Mm.
maternity leave, or it's just a very creative, I don't know, part of our life, maybe.
Yeah, and you just maybe you suddenly wonder, what else can I be doing with my life that will give me
Mm,
that more time, extra time with my child? I don't
mm.
know. That might be it.
And maybe trying to have a different impact on the world around us now that you've got kids coming into this world.
Oh, that's true. Exactly right. Exactly right. So they see what is possible out there.
Yeah, totally. So give us kind of like the highlight reel of the business journey since that launch, when you actually did launch to market.
Yeah. So you asked before how long ago it was. So that was actually all the way back in 2015.
Yes.
Launched with a bang,
Yes.
um, thanks to an article that appeared in Broadsheet, and we're so
Ah,
grateful. Yeah, we're
yes.
very grateful to the editor at the time, Tim Fisher. He really believed in us. Like, I sent him an email and he literally replied within minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really amazing. And because of that article, we had to pack orders well into the night just to
That's
keep up with the sales. Yeah, it was amazing. And because of that article, a number of other media outlets also posted about us.
Mm,
And yeah, that was just really created great awareness and sales for us.
yeah, power of PR, hey?
Absolutely. Exactly right. And
Yeah. And so from there, yeah, like what happened after that? Because that's a huge way to start.
yeah, and then we also went into a number of events. I mean, around us, we had already noticed a few other, startup brands, and we
Mhm.
was like, oh, they appeared at these design markets, like the Big Design Market, Finders Keepers Market. So we applied for them as well. And back then, it was known to be hard to get into. And again, we're
Right.
so grateful to those event organizers for believing in us and took us in.
Mm.
And both of these markets, like, were amazing. It was just the response to sales we got as a result of those markets. So again, those created great awareness for us.
Mm.
We
And
also won.
probably encouraged the trial as well because customers could buy straight there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. And because being in person, being such a new product, new concept product,
Yes.
being able to explain how that product worked in person made such a difference as well.
Yeah. 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 I imagine so.
Yeah. And it was just the first few years were just amazing. We also won gold at the Melbourne Design Awards, and that was our first awards submission. So, like, all these things combined, to publicity, and also drew in the attention of corporates, and they wanted to customize PaperSavers
Ah,
as their corporate gifts and corporate stationery.
yeah.
And we scored like big clients like LinkedIn and ME Bank.
Wow.
So yeah, and then I was interviewed by Lee Campbell, who was at HuffPost at the time. She's now at Mamma Mia.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, so there were all these things, and that you know gave us such a big bang to the start of our journey. So
Yeah. Did
and
you
then
feel a little bit like maybe at the end of that first year that's like, oh, this is how business is?
easy,
Like it's easy.
exactly, it's easy. That's exactly how it felt. So and yeah, so we sometimes you just take a few of these things for granted, and it's not like it's when the buzz dies down that it makes you go, oh, it's harder than we thought it was.
Yeah, that's right. Because I guess when something's really new and your product is an innovative product as well, and I guess there's there's the buzz of the what's new, and but once you've been around for a little while, you have to try and recreate that buzz somehow, don't you?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So tell us what happened after that first kind of year.
Well, it was, so I think what back then we also still only saw the PaperSaver as a side hustle. We
Right.
never actually saw ourselves as entrepreneurs or anything. So so a job offer found its way to me as well, and I accepted it. I had 2 kids by then, so between the kids, the part-time job, PaperSaver was actually not my priority, like high on the priority list anymore. And so all of that, drove down, and it just became this thing that churned itself on the side.
Less of a priority and got less attention and oxygen.
Oh, absolutely. And then that was the way it was for a few years. And then and it wasn't until I had a job that wasn't really going anywhere, and it's like, oh, it made me stop and think, what else can I, this PaperSaver thing it was still doing sales at the back, not a lot, obviously, because the website was untouched for a number of years, and it just kept going. It was just, I think probably word of mouth that kept going on in the background. So, but it was like, hey, we're still getting sales despite us not really doing anything. Can we be doing more? And, it's just, it takes moments like that with, other parts of your life that makes you stop, think about what else you can be doing. And again, so I stepped back into the PaperSaver as a result.
Yeah. And that's probably, around the time that you came into my world, but I can't actually remember how long ago that was now.
That was, to be exact, from memory, September, October 2021.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, you guys in Vic were probably in lockdown and having been through some lockdowns and
no, that jogs the memory. It was probably all the lockdowns that made me stop and think, okay.
Sorry, I shouldn't bring that up. We don't scratch that.
No, but it's relevant because it's, it was the lockdown. I think the lockdowns changed things for many people, and
absolutely,
and I'm definitely one of them.
Yeah, lots of people were reassessing so many different aspects of life, and it does kind of make you think, well, if I'm really not enjoying this job, why am I spending most of my life at it? And then of course you've got this brand that was ticking along, making sales without really you poking at it too much and driving it too much. So yeah, so cool. And so and obviously, you've worked on things, various things since then, which we can get to in a minute. But I guess over these years since you launched, what would you say were 3 of the most difficult challenges or scenarios that you've had to experience in business?
I think the first was probably bringing the PaperSaver to life. Well, first, John convincing me that it would be a good idea to do so. I think we were just too comfortable before kids. We had jobs, we were enjoying life, we were in our 20s, not a lot to really worry about back then. But when we did decide to do it, there were the challenges like, it made me think about how many people actually would reuse paper as pages like we would. We didn't have that market knowledge. So as I said, that was one of the things holding me back from actually proceeding. Because I did have a background in product marketing, so I was like, is there a market for this at all?
And I guess your background was also in the mass consumer goods too.
Exactly right.
Thing, right? Yeah.
Exactly right.
Were you able to kind of pull from that experience to help you with that research or to?
Oh, definitely. So, things like the PR, when I researched and reached out to the media contacts or media outlets to, get my PaperSaver out there, I was used to having a PR agency doing all that for me. And suddenly I was writing all the PR releases myself, finding all the media contacts myself, researching who would be the right people. So, not having that agency, that was a big change for me, and learning, luckily, had a bird's eye view of what they did. So it was just like, okay, I kind of know what they did. Let me do
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
things, yeah, that was new. Finding the just the sourcing is obviously finding the right supplier. Um,
That would be a common challenge, I reckon, for so many, productpreneurs.
Yeah, exactly right. Especially like no one has made our product before, obviously.
Yeah, right.
So we started with a notebook manufacturer, and that was the right direction.
Yeah.
But usually I was used to having someone in operations or and finance to do all that sourcing,
Mhm.
costing for me. So suddenly, we're doing it ourselves, getting right down to making sure we weren't missing any costs, and getting into the nitty gritty things of like customs, taxes, shipping, and just
Yeah.
learning to trust that suppliers, like, oh, are they really going to deliver after we pay?
Yes.
Yeah, there was some worry there.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much. Um, it's so opaque, a lot of that process, like you really do have to go on faith, don't you?
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
you try and research and you try and mitigate the risks in as many ways as you can, of course. But yeah, there's still a bit of a leap of faith you have to take in there and hope it all works out.
Exactly right. That's
Like a third challenge or kind of situation that really was confronting or difficult that you want to share?
yeah. So pretty much, as I said, we started off with a bang. There were so many highs. And it was just that mindset shift that was necessary
Yeah.
from seeing it as a side hustle to saying, I can grow this, I can make this into something bigger than just a side hustle.
Yeah.
So it was that really required a big mindset shift.
Yeah.
And I think when I first joined you, I think you had someone who really drilled that into me, between
Ben?
you and Ben. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That was like, oh, that was eye-opening for me.
Yeah.
And just learning to invest more in marketing, and in the business. Because of my background, I thought I could do everything in myself. So
Mm.
again, it's a bit of mindset and accepting that I need some help.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it,
And there's one thing. On the one hand, you would know how to do probably most of this stuff, especially now, but how much time has one person got? Like,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly right. I can do it, but if I didn't have kids, maybe if there were more hours in a day, yeah,
if you didn't
absolutely.
need to sleep, maybe.
Exactly. Exactly. You can only do so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
So
I even just learnt that after the past year. Like, I think I shared with you, I was working till midnight most nights, and I think
mm,
it took like some when I got sick, I was like, okay, this might be just nature's way of telling me I need to slow down.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't work till midnight every night.
I
You
know
will
so
burn out.
many, yeah, I know so many women who have done that. And me too. I did that years ago. It's just not sustainable, is it?
No, it is not.
Yeah. So tell us some of the things that you ended up doing to, like what strategies or actions did you take to try and move through these times, this situation?
Uh, yeah. So,
Let's
sorry.
tackle that last. Let's tackle that last
Yeah,
one first. With the time.
yeah. So with the time, yeah, I've just learned to have to accept that I can't do everything in one go. So first, as per your suggestion, I outsourced. I found a social media person to
Yeah,
manage
that
social media, because
helps you.
yeah, after going through what took the most of my time, and I was not good at it. I never claimed to be a social media expert.
You didn't
um,
really love it either, did you?
oh, I think it became a chore more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a chore, and something nagging me. You have to post, but it's like, oh, what can I do?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that was just the most tip. And I now have a wonderful social media person who just manages things for me. When the posts go up, she gives me ideas. Yeah, so it's just taken off a huge part.
You
Yeah,
bought back lots of hours in a week, I reckon, doing that.
exactly. And
Yeah.
focusing more on other things that I'm better at.
Yeah.
And I can get, yeah.
So, yeah. And what about on you were talking about the challenge of finding suppliers and getting the quality control and getting, just learning the ropes with, getting your manufacturing sorted and delivered into the country. Any tips that you can share? Because I do know that is such a common experience for lots of brand owners. Like, any tips you can share to try and get through that challenging scenario?
I think it's just to get as much information as you can from them, get them to get you samples, obviously, so that they would deliver. And also just to find out what other brands they have created. I know of some of the brands our manufacturer also makes notebooks for. So like, okay, then I know that they can be trusted. And we actually just ended up bonding well with our contact at our supplier. So that was also a good thing. You can feel a difference. They would contact you when things didn't go right. They would ask for, oh, are we doing this right? So they just gave us feedback. There was that gave us a bit of reassurance. And I had a friend in shipping, so we kind of looked into that factory to make sure that they have sent stuff before, and then my friend was able to find out, we actually know that supplier too. So things, this bit of a background check.
And just a quick extra question there as well. So one area I know that is often leads to poor quality control for some brands is not having the really thoroughly documented designs and tech packs and instructions and things like that for the factory. And I guess your husband, John, he's an architect. So I imagine that you guys were able to really thoroughly produce that information for them.
Yes. He just uses his fancy
software,
drawing software to do all the designs. So he fully took charge of that. I have no, obviously he prints stuff out so I can review them, proofread things and all that, but he takes care of all the specs and gets that really right down. So I think
that would definitely have helped.
Yeah, our supplier, I think, actually made a comment. It's like, oh, you've provided more detail than any other customer we've ever had. And that was good to know.
Yeah. And I have to say, I mean, obviously you guys have that in-house, which is an amazing asset for your brand. But I would suggest to a lot of other brand owners, if you're listening to this and looking to manufacture offshore or struggling with product quality issues offshore, to invest a little bit in that sort of help up front and perhaps locally, because it's going to save you so much money down the track.
Yeah, I think so. That definitely is an asset between all his design capabilities and being used to that extra attention to detail when designing things.
Yeah, totally. Well, as an architect, I mean, it has to be very.
That's what you want, right?
Otherwise, it might fall down. So good. And so, so the next question that I have for you is, what do you contribute to the success of PaperSaver? And I just want to preempt this for everyone. I know that Michelle has a long way to go before she achieves her ultimate vision for this, but you're a long way into your journey, and it is a success so far, and you have successfully achieved lots of things. So what would you say has contributed to that so far?
Well, first and foremost, it's still the only notebook out there that reuses paper. So our point of difference and uniqueness sells itself. And we really pride ourselves in that. And it's funny, it wasn't until I met you that it became like, hey, why didn't I use that as a selling point? So it's now front and center on our website, the world's only reusable notebook.
Yeah, so good.
And so when we did our first design market, the number of people that were amazed after we explained and demonstrated the product was just astounding. And we really, we really should have sold that first point earlier.
Well, you're capitalizing on it now, so that
yes, we still are. Yes.
Yeah. Do you feel like you had to have a bit of trial and error about how you communicate that online? Because I know for me, with my first business, at that time, it was a fairly new and different sort of product, and people didn't really know what it was. So you had to try and get through that education process a little bit.
Absolutely. So when we launched, we simply called it the PaperSaver,
Mm.
and gradually becoming the PaperSaver notebook. And
Mm.
then it was after, again, taking that extra time to reassess my brand after we crossed paths.
Yes.
I rebranded, and really thinking about my product, we rebranded it again to PaperSaver Reusable Notebook. It's more of a mouthful, but it helps definitely to communicate the nature of the product or what it is. It makes people go, oh, reusable, because
Mm.
generally notebooks are single use and disposable. So it's like, how can it be reusable?
Yeah.
And yeah, and since then I've noticed in our Google search results that reusable notebook is one of the key terms that brings our customers in. So it's like, you know, things you learn 8 years into the business. It's
Yeah.
still yeah,
Yeah.
it's a continuous learning process. It really
Well, it
is.
is. Yeah, I think, anytime we feel like we can't learn anything more in our business, it's a bit of a worry.
Yeah, definitely.
Would you say there's some other things that you've learned or tested and tried over the years that have really shifted the needle in growing your business?
So again, it's finally admitting and acknowledging that we needed external help. 6 years after we started, that really shifted the needle. Again, because of my background, I just thought I could do everything,
Mm.
but
Or
it's
it should be
really
able
but and understanding that the PaperSaver is first and foremost an e-commerce brand,
Yeah.
so not what I was doing. So it's understanding, okay, I needed someone or someone's with expertise specifically in e-commerce to give me the tips, advice that I needed to get the brand out there more to more people. And
Yeah.
it just never hurts to get extra eyes and brains on your brand, because everyone has different opinions, viewpoints, suggestions, and because we've been so close to the paper for so long, PaperSaver for so long, it's just yeah, it's sometimes you just can't see what you're stuck in. And
Yeah, totally. It's that whole phrase, you can't see the wood for the trees because you're just looking at it for so long. Yeah, someone else might have a totally different perspective to bring to it.
and absolutely has changed all of that. It's been really good.
Yeah, sensational. You still do wholesale as well though, right?
We do wholesale as well.
Yeah, yeah. I do love that business model where it's both wholesale and e-commerce. I think that it helps to lift both sides up, when you do both.
Yeah, absolutely. When we started, it was the result of our publicity that we got, just knocks on the door. I wasn't even trying back then. It's like, hey, we would love to wholesale your products.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was really good as well. And at the moment, I'm still trying to grow that side of the business
Yeah.
after stabilizing the consumer side.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's, and probably these things come in swings and roundabouts throughout the year as well. So, sometimes we spend more of our time focusing on wholesale, and then other times, I guess towards the second half of the year, it gets pretty busy in e-commerce world. So you
Yeah.
might come back to that more, hey?
Yeah.
So when you think about, all of this experience over the years that you've had with PaperSaver, what advice would you give to some other business owners, whether they're launching or they're trying to grow their e-commerce brand?
I think it's important to really surround yourself with like-minded people, such as friends or contacts who also have small business owners, or even people who every now and then, oh, that would be a great business idea, or find people who truly believe in you and your idea. Because I can't tell you the number of times like when we told family and friends about the PaperSaver when we first started, just even though the words that came out of their mouth was like, oh, wow, that's amazing, but their faces just didn't quite match the words. It was just,
Yeah.
and it just made you, it wasn't the most encouraging thing, obviously.
Yeah.
But the important thing is you can't let those reactions get to you. Don't, because they don't understand. Most people were like me before PaperSaver, just comfortable with jobs and couldn't imagine life any different.
Yeah.
So you just can't let those people get you down. And since joining with you, Kath, and getting to know other small business owners, it has made a world of difference knowing that other people are experiencing similar things to me. And it's like, oh, I'm not alone. I can do this because everyone else is just going through the same thing. And we have our same challenges and we celebrate wins together. And that's just been really amazing.
Yeah, that lived experience is it's kind of priceless, because otherwise you feel like you're trying to solve problems in a vacuum, and it's so isolating and makes you feel like it can make you feel like you're not cut out for this, when in reality it's just that you got to get around the right people so you get the help.
Oh, and even now we have those days. It's like, when sales, you might have a down day in sales, it's like, and it just bums you out, but you just have to pick yourself back up and keep going.
Yeah. And, sometimes we can get some great ideas from other people as well who may have been through that. Well, I can guarantee everyone goes through days like that.
Yeah.
All of us. But, we can kind of pick ourselves up faster and move through it faster when we have that help. I remember in my first business, I had that same reaction from so many friends. I was selling baby products. So, I was at a stage of life where lots of friends were all having babies as well. Literally only 2 of them ever bought my stuff.
Oh, yeah, I feel like that too. My friends, I have a few very supportive friends, and they full on PaperSaver, supporters, and then I've got other friends who are just like, oh yeah, okay, you're still doing that? Oh yeah.
Yeah, we won't talk about that this I think that's probably normal, and you're right, we just can't let it get to us.
Yeah.
So tell us, what are you looking forward to this year, 2023 and beyond? So what's next for you guys?
Well, this year, it's just because we had such a great year last year, it's learning to continue to grow on that high, and accept that there might be down days like we just talked about, but it's everything that you do now that adds up to sales later. No one's going to buy straight away. And because I saw that last year, everything we did in the first half of the year we reaped the benefits in the second half of the year. So it's just continuing to see that grow in, and then we said before, and I want to focus more on wholesale as well, and corporate sales as well. So they're the things I've got. I had lots of ideas, always have ideas, but just don't have time to do it. And I want this year to be that year that I get around to getting all my corporate, making all those corporate approaches.
Yeah, sensational. I have 3 kind of rapid fire questions that I like to try and ask everyone on the show. And so the first is, what advice would you give yourself back when, the very first you very first started, whether you want to think about this when you were actually seriously looking to launch, or perhaps when you guys first had the product idea? I don't mind.
That's exactly what I was going to say. When we first got the product idea, start when you have the idea, not years later.
Yeah.
With a child and not very much sleep.
Totally. It's a bit tiring.
Like, do it now.
Strike while the iron's hot, hey?
Yeah,
love it. And so second question for you, what's been one of the best decisions that you've made over all of these years in your business?
Investing in the business is definitely the best decision. I think you mentioned in your podcast, the one that went on live this week, that too many businesses overspend. I have the opposite problem because I kept thinking I could do it myself. So investing in marketing, investing in photos, videos, getting someone to help external to your business, and all the help and advice from other people that you can get just through investments. You just need to invest in your business. Otherwise, you will just not move and it will just stay stationary. And
no pun intended, of course. That's twofold there. It's investing in your business, but it's also investing in upskilling yourself too, right?
Oh, exactly right. Like we said, we have to always learn. There's nothing that you never stop learning, basically.
Yeah. Well, I hope not. I think as entrepreneurs, we love to learn, and we love to have these creative ideas and solve problems and things like that. It's kind of innate in us, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Final question for you today. What do you love about being a business owner the most?
The flexibility, no doubt. The first one, nothing beats the flexibility, especially when you're a mum.
Yeah.
Despite many workplaces offering it now, it's just not the same, especially if you're someone like me. I get so guilty if I have to pause and do, personal things like pick up kids, and even if I rush back. But then I feel guilty when I can't pick up my kids. So, it's just the way I am. I feel guilty because I have that sense of responsibility. So having that flexibility with being in my own business, then I don't have that. Well, I still do. That's why I was working. I did. That's why I was working till midnight. I can't do that anymore.
No, you can't. You've grown too big for that. Yeah, I think that's super common. I reckon probably the two most common answers I get to that question, number one is the flexibility side of things. A few have been answering that they really love the sense of achievement when they solve problems.
That was my second answer. It's the level of satisfaction, definitely, because it's the PaperSaver is our own creation. So, every time we even just get one sale, we get any customer feedback that we get, and they say tell us how much they love the product. There's still that's this sense of joy in us, even after so many years. It's like, oh, really? You love that product? And that's definitely up there as well with the flexibility.
Yeah, I love it. And so for any listeners who want to come and check out PaperSaver, where should we direct them online?
Papersaver.com.au.
Yes. And socials?
Social media is at PaperSaver Notebook.
Yeah, excellent. So we'll share the links to those on the podcast show notes page as well. But, it's such a creative, innovative product. And, for anyone who does print a lot, it is a necessary accessory for your desk. So go check it out.
And we've got some exciting new products this year. Hopefully, I'm really excited about them. So stay tuned.
Are you allowed to give tidbits, or is it too early yet?
A bit early, maybe.
So watch this space. I can't wait, and I know that you'll share it when it's ready. Hopefully, in time for gifting time later this year, right?
Yeah, addresses like I know not everyone prints and reuses, so stay tuned.
Sneak hint there. Have to wait. Thank you so much for jumping on with me today, Michelle. It's been so amazing hearing your story, and I know our listeners will have enjoyed that too.
Thanks again, Kath, for having me.